You reach into the pantry and grab a handful of almonds. They're healthy, right? Everyone says so. Nutritionists recommend them. Diet books praise them. They're packed with protein, healthy fats, and nutrients. You've been eating them as your go-to snack for years, convinced you're doing something good for your body. But what if I told you that for certain people, those innocent-looking almonds could be triggering serious health problems? What if those same nuts that help some people lose weight, lower cholesterol, and improve heart health could be silently worsening inflammation in your gut, overloading your kidneys with minerals they can't process, or even triggering dangerous allergic reactions you didn't know you were prone to? What if the very food you thought was protecting your health is actually undermining it in ways you haven't connected? This isn't about demonizing almonds. For most people, almonds are indeed nutritious and beneficial, but there are specific health conditions, 5 of them in particular, where almonds can cause significant problems. And the troubling part is that many people suffering from these conditions don't realize that their beloved healthy snack might be making things worse. They attribute their symptoms to other causes, never suspecting that something as wholesome as almonds could be at the root of their discomfort or declining health. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which health conditions make almonds problematic, why they cause issues for these specific situations, and what you can do if you fall into one of these categories. Before I reveal these 5 conditions, I want you to understand something fundamental about nutrition that often gets lost in our quest for superfoods and healthy eating. No food, no matter how nutritious, is universally good for everyone. Your individual health status, your genetics, your existing medical conditions, and your body's unique biochemistry all determine whether a food will nourish you or harm you. This is the principle of personalized nutrition, and it's becoming increasingly clear in scientific research that the one-size-fits-all approach to healthy eating is inadequate. What works beautifully for your neighbor might be terrible for you. What helps one person lose weight might cause another person digestive distress. And almonds are a perfect example of this principle. Almonds are indeed nutritionally dense. A 1-ounce serving, about 23 almonds, provides 6 grams of protein, 3.5 grams of fiber, vitamin E, magnesium, riboflavin, and healthy monounsaturated fats. They're low in carbohydrates and have been associated in research with improved cholesterol levels, better blood sugar control, and reduced hunger. For many people, incorporating almonds into their diet is genuinely beneficial. But almonds also contain specific compounds that can be problematic under certain circumstances. They're high in oxalates, which can contribute to kidney stone formation. They're calorie-dense, which can sabotage weight loss if portions aren't controlled. They contain phytic acid, which can interfere with mineral absorption. And for people with certain digestive conditions, the fiber and fat content can trigger symptoms. Let me start by telling you a story that illustrates how a healthy food can become problematic. Imagine a woman we'll call Susan. Susan is 62 and has always tried to eat healthily. When she learned about the benefits of almonds, she started eating them daily. A handful in the morning with her coffee, another handful as an afternoon snack. Sometimes she'd have almond butter on toast. She was consuming about 2 to 3 ounces of almonds daily, sometimes more. Susan thought she was doing everything right, but over several months, she developed increasing digestive discomfort, bloating after meals, gas, alternating constipation, and diarrhea. She also noticed that her lower back pain, which she'd had occasionally for years, was becoming more frequent and severe. Susan went to her doctor, who ran tests. They found that Susan had developed kidney stones, not just one, but several small stones in both kidneys. Her doctor asked about her diet, and when Susan mentioned her high almond consumption, the doctor identified a likely culprit. Almonds are very high in oxalates, and Susan had been consuming large amounts daily for months. Those oxalates were binding with calcium in her kidneys and forming calcium oxalate stones, the most common type of kidney stone. Additionally, the high fiber content of the almonds was likely contributing to her digestive issues, particularly since Susan had undiagnosed irritable bowel syndrome that had been mild until the almond consumption pushed it over the edge. Susan stopped eating almonds entirely. Within weeks, her digestive symptoms improved dramatically. Over the following months, she passed several of the smaller kidney stones. An extremely painful process, and the remaining stones were monitored to ensure they didn't grow larger. Susan learned a painful lesson. Even healthy foods can cause serious problems when consumed in the wrong amounts or by people with certain predispositions. Her story is not unique, and it brings us to the first of the 5 health conditions where almonds should be avoided or strictly limited. The first condition is a history of kidney stones, particularly calcium oxalate stones. If you've ever had a kidney stone, your doctor has probably talked to you about oxalates. Oxalates are naturally occurring compounds found in many plant foods. In your digestive tract, oxalates can bind to minerals like calcium and iron, reducing their absorption. But the bigger problem occurs when oxalates are absorbed into your bloodstream and eventually excreted by your kidneys. In the urine, these oxalates can combine with calcium to form crystals. For most people, these crystals are small enough to pass without notice. But for people prone to kidney stones, these crystals can aggregate into larger stones that can cause excruciating pain, block urine flow, and potentially damage kidney tissue. Almonds are one of the highest oxalate-containing foods you can eat. A 1-ounce serving of almonds contains approximately 122 milligrams of oxalates. To put that in perspective, a low oxalate diet for kidney stone prevention typically recommends limiting oxalate intake to 50 to 100 milligrams per day total. A single ounce of almonds exceeds that entire daily allowance. If you're eating 2 or 3 ounces of almonds, as many people do when they snack mindlessly or when they use almond flour in baking, you could be consuming 300 to 400 milligrams of oxalates just from almonds, creating a significant risk for stone formation. Research has clearly established the connection between dietary oxalate intake and kidney stone risk. Studies indicate that people who consume high oxalate diets have significantly higher rates of kidney stone formation compared to those who limit oxalate intake. And once you've had one kidney stone, your risk of developing another is approximately 50% within 5 to 10 years if you don't make dietary changes. If you have a history of kidney stones, especially calcium oxalate stones, eliminating or dramatically reducing almonds is one of the most important dietary changes you can make. This doesn't mean you can never have an almond again, but it does mean that almonds should not be a daily snack or a dietary staple. The second condition where almonds are problematic is irritable bowel syndrome, particularly IBS with diarrhea or mixed IBS. IBS is a common digestive disorder that affects millions of Americans, particularly women and people over 50. It's characterized by abdominal pain, bloating, and altered bowel habits. The exact cause of IBS isn't fully understood, but it involves a combination of gut motility issues, visceral hypersensitivity, where the nerves in the gut are overly sensitive, gut microbiome imbalances, and food sensitivities. For people with IBS, almonds can be problematic for several reasons. First, almonds are high in insoluble fiber, which adds bulk to stool and can speed up transit time through the intestines. For someone with IBS-D, the diarrhea predominant type, this can worsen symptoms. Second, almonds are high in fat, about 14 grams per ounce, mostly healthy monounsaturated fat. But fat can trigger the gastrocolic reflex, the signal that tells your colon to contract and move contents along. For people with sensitive digestive systems, this can trigger cramping, urgency, and diarrhea. Third, almonds contain fermentable carbohydrates, specifically oligosaccharides, which are part of the FODMAP family of carbohydrates that can trigger IBS symptoms. FODMAP stands for fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. These are short-chain carbohydrates that are poorly absorbed in the small intestine. When they reach the colon, gut bacteria ferment them, producing gas and drawing water into the colon. This causes bloating, distension, gas, and changes in bowel habits. The low FODMAP diet, which restricts these fermentable carbohydrates, has been shown in research to significantly reduce IBS symptoms in about 70% of people who try it. Almonds are considered high FODMAP in servings larger than 10 almonds. For someone following a strict low FODMAP diet to manage IBS, almonds need to be limited or avoided during the elimination phase. Let me share another story. We'll call him David. David is 57 and has dealt with digestive issues for years, though he'd never been formally diagnosed with IBS. He experienced frequent bloating, gas, and unpredictable bowel habits that ranged from constipation to sudden urgent diarrhea. David had learned to manage it to some extent by avoiding obvious triggers like dairy and spicy foods. When David decided to improve his diet and lose weight, he started snacking on almonds instead of chips or cookies. He'd eat a quarter cup at a time, sometimes more, thinking he was making a healthy choice. Within weeks, David's digestive symptoms worsened dramatically. He was bloated nearly all the time. The gas was embarrassing and uncomfortable. He was having diarrhea multiple times a day. He couldn't understand why his symptoms had gotten so much worse when he was eating healthier. David finally saw a gastroenterologist who diagnosed him with IBS and recommended the low FODMAP diet. When David worked with a registered dietitian who specialized in digestive disorders, she identified almonds as a likely trigger given the timing of when David's symptoms worsened and the amount he was consuming. David eliminated almonds and followed the low FODMAP diet strictly for 6 weeks. His symptoms improved dramatically. When he eventually tried reintroducing almonds during the reintroduction phase, even a small amount triggered bloating and diarrhea within hours. David learned that for his particular digestive system, almonds were simply not tolerable, even though they're considered healthy for most people. The third condition where almonds are problematic is impaired kidney function or chronic kidney disease. Your kidneys are responsible for filtering waste products from your blood, regulating fluid balance, and maintaining proper mineral levels. When kidney function is impaired, these processes become less efficient, and certain substances can accumulate to harmful levels. One of these substances is potassium. While potassium is an essential mineral for most people and can even help lower blood pressure, for people with chronic kidney disease, too much potassium can be dangerous. Healthy kidneys excrete excess potassium in urine, keeping blood levels in the safe range. But when kidney function declines, particularly when glomerular filtration rate, or GFR, drops below 60, which is the cutoff for stage 3 chronic kidney disease, the kidneys become less able to excrete potassium. This can lead to hyperkalemia, elevated blood potassium, which can cause dangerous heart rhythm abnormalities. Symptoms of high potassium include weakness, fatigue, nausea, and in severe cases, palpitations and life-threatening arrhythmias. Almonds are relatively high in potassium. A 1-ounce serving contains about 208 milligrams of potassium. For someone with advanced kidney disease on a potassium-restricted diet, which typically limits potassium to about 2,000 milligrams per day, almonds can quickly contribute a significant portion of that limit. And because people with kidney disease need to limit potassium from multiple sources, having almonds as a regular snack can make it very difficult to stay within safe limits. Additionally, almonds are high in phosphorus, another mineral that can accumulate when kidney function is impaired. High phosphorus levels pull calcium from bones, weakening them, and can deposit in blood vessels, contributing to cardiovascular disease, which is already the leading cause of death in people with chronic kidney disease. For these reasons, people with stage 3 or higher chronic kidney disease are typically advised to limit or avoid nuts, including almonds, unless their kidney function and lab values are closely monitored and their healthcare team has approved their inclusion in the diet. Let me tell you about a man we'll call Thomas. Thomas is 70 years old and has had type 2 diabetes for 15 years. Over time, his diabetes caused damage to his kidneys, a condition called diabetic nephropathy. His GFR had declined to 45, putting him in stage 3 chronic kidney disease. Thomas's nephrologist put him on a kidney protective diet that included limiting potassium and phosphorus. But Thomas loved almonds and had been eating them daily for years as a healthy snack. He didn't realize they were high in potassium and phosphorus until his nephrologist specifically asked about nuts in his diet. At Thomas's regular lab work, his potassium level came back at 5.8 milliequivalents per liter, elevated above the normal range of 3.5 to 5. His doctor was concerned and reviewed Thomas's diet in detail. The daily almonds, along with potassium from other sources, were contributing to the elevation. Thomas's doctor explained that with his level of kidney function, he couldn't safely consume almonds regularly. Thomas was disappointed but understood the seriousness. He stopped eating almonds and worked with a renal dietitian to find other snacks that were lower in potassium and phosphorus. Within a few weeks, Thomas's potassium levels normalized. His doctor emphasized how important it was to maintain proper potassium balance because abnormal levels could trigger dangerous heart rhythms. Thomas learned that what's healthy for people with normal kidney function isn't necessarily safe for someone with impaired kidneys. The foods he chose needed to match his body's current capabilities, not an idealized version of healthy eating. The fourth condition where almonds can be problematic is being on certain blood-thinning medications, particularly warfarin. Warfarin works by interfering with vitamin K-dependent clotting factors. Your liver uses vitamin K to produce several proteins that are essential for blood clotting. Warfarin blocks this process, making your blood less likely to form dangerous clots. For people at risk for strokes, pulmonary embolism, or other clotting disorders, warfarin can be life-saving, but it requires careful management and very consistent vitamin K intake. The reason consistency matters is that vitamin K is warfarin's antidote. If you suddenly increase your vitamin K intake, you reduce warfarin's effectiveness, potentially allowing dangerous clots to form. If you suddenly decrease vitamin K intake, warfarin becomes more potent, potentially causing dangerous bleeding. Doctors managing patients on warfarin emphasize that you don't need to avoid vitamin K-containing foods, but you do need to consume consistent amounts so your warfarin dose can be calibrated appropriately. Almonds contain vitamin K, though not as much as some vegetables like kale or spinach. A 1-ounce serving of almonds contains roughly 7 micrograms of vitamin K. While this isn't a huge amount, if you're eating several ounces of almonds daily, and if your typical vitamin K intake from other sources varies significantly, the almonds could be interfering with your warfarin effectiveness. More importantly, if you've been eating almonds regularly and your warfarin dose has been adjusted based on that intake, suddenly stopping almonds could make your blood too thin. increasing bleeding risk. Let me share a story about a woman we'll call Patricia. Patricia is 69 and has been on warfarin for 6 years following a pulmonary embolism. Her INR, the blood test that measures warfarin's effect, has been stable for years at a therapeutic range between 2 and 3. Patricia has always been good about consistency with vitamin K-containing foods. But when Patricia decided to lose weight, she started following a low-carb diet plan that included eating a cup of almonds throughout the day as snacks. Patricia didn't think about the vitamin K content or the potential interaction with her warfarin. At her next INR check 3 weeks later, Patricia's INR had dropped to 1.6, below the therapeutic range. This meant her blood was not thin enough, putting her at risk for clots. The anticoagulation clinic nurse asked about diet changes, and Patricia mentioned her new eating plan with lots of almonds. The nurse explained that the increased vitamin K from almonds had reduced her warfarin effectiveness. Patricia's warfarin dose was increased, and she was told to keep her almond intake consistent going forward, or to eliminate them and have her dose adjusted accordingly. Patricia chose to eliminate almonds to simplify her warfarin management. Within 2 weeks, her INR was back in the therapeutic range with the adjusted dose. Patricia learned that being on warfarin requires thinking carefully about dietary consistency, and that adding large amounts of any food, even healthy foods like almonds, needs to be discussed with her anticoagulation team. The fifth and final condition where almonds are problematic is tree nut allergies. This might seem obvious, but it's worth discussing because tree nut allergies are often misunderstood, and almonds are one of the most common allergenic tree nuts. Tree nut allergies are among the most common food allergies in adults, and unlike some childhood food allergies that can be outgrown, tree nut allergies typically persist for life. They're also among the most dangerous food allergies, frequently causing anaphylaxis, a severe allergic reaction that can be fatal without immediate treatment. An allergic reaction to almonds can range from mild oral itching and hives to severe anaphylaxis with difficulty breathing, throat swelling, dangerous drops in blood pressure, and loss of consciousness. For people with known tree nut allergies, strict avoidance is essential. But what's less understood is that tree nut allergies can develop in adulthood. You can go your whole life eating almonds without problems and then suddenly develop an allergy. This is particularly concerning because people don't expect it and may not recognize the symptoms for what they are. Let me tell you about a man we'll call Robert. Robert is 63 and has eaten almonds occasionally his whole life without any problems. But over the past year, Robert noticed that whenever he ate almonds, his mouth would itch and his lips would tingle. He dismissed it as maybe the almonds being old or something on the skin. One evening, Robert ate a larger handful of almonds than usual. Within minutes, the itching became more intense. His lips swelled noticeably. He developed hives on his face and neck. He felt his throat beginning to tighten. Robert's wife recognized these as signs of an allergic reaction and gave him an antihistamine. But when the throat tightness didn't improve, she drove him to the emergency room. At the ER, Robert was treated with epinephrine, corticosteroids, and antihistamines. His symptoms resolved, and he was observed for several hours. Robert was referred to an allergist who confirmed through testing that Robert had developed a tree nut allergy, specifically to almonds. Robert was prescribed an epinephrine autoinjector to carry at all times and was told to strictly avoid all almonds and almond-containing products. Robert was shocked. He'd eaten almonds for decades. How could he suddenly be allergic? The allergist explained that adult-onset food allergies are more common than many people realize, and the immune system can change over time. Robert learned to read labels carefully, as almonds and almond products are in many processed foods. He also learned that his initial mild symptoms, the oral itching, had been warning signs that he'd dismissed. Now let's talk about some myths about almonds. The first myth is that because almonds are healthy, more is always better. As we've discussed, even healthy foods can cause problems when consumed in excess or by people with certain health conditions. Almonds are calorie-dense, with about 160 calories per ounce. If you're eating 3 or 4 ounces a day, that's 500 to 640 calories just from almonds, which can easily sabotage weight loss efforts. The second myth is that almond products like almond milk, almond flour, and almond butter have the same nutritional benefits as whole almonds. While these products can be part of a healthy diet, they're not nutritionally identical. Commercial. Almond milk is mostly water with minimal protein. Almond flour is more concentrated and can contain even more oxalates per serving. Each almond product should be considered separately. Now let's discuss alternatives if you fall into one of the 5 categories. If you have kidney stones, focus on low oxalate nuts like macadamia nuts or cashews. Seeds like pumpkin seeds are lower in oxalates. If you have IBS, work with a dietitian trained in the low FODMAP diet. Some people with IBS tolerate small amounts of macadamia nuts or pecans. If you have kidney disease, work closely with a renal dietitian. Lower potassium options might include apples, berries, or popcorn in appropriate portions. If you're on warfarin, consistency is key. If you have a tree nut allergy, complete avoidance is essential. Seeds like sunflower or pumpkin seeds can provide similar nutrients without the allergy risk. If you found this information valuable, I encourage you to subscribe to Science of Eating Well. Click that subscribe button and turn on notifications. And if this video has helped you understand whether almonds are appropriate for your situation, please click the like button. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Do you eat almonds regularly? Do you have any of the 5 conditions we discussed? Most importantly, I want you to feel empowered to make informed decisions about your health. Generic dietary advice cannot account for your unique health status. The most powerful approach to nutrition is one that considers who you are as an individual. Sometimes this means avoiding foods that are considered universally healthy because they're not healthy for you. That's not failure. That's wisdom. Thank you for spending this time with me. I wish you health, vitality, and the wisdom to make food choices that truly support your unique body. Remember that every person's optimal diet is different, and discovering yours is a journey of awareness and collaboration with knowledgeable healthcare providers. Until next time, eat with intention, listen to your body, and embrace the power of personalized nutrition for optimal health.